I am a recovering addict when it comes to checking the boxes of all the things that my kids need to get done in a day. And instead, I am trying to make homeschooling fun. Now, if you watch my other videos, I'm not gonna stop my routines, but we are incorporating game schooling because I realized that I was doing something wrong. Today, we're gonna talk about game schooling, what it is, why it works, and games that I use. And I am not one of those people that's using these really random, obscure games. I'm just using really popular games in my homeschool. We're gonna talk about the games I'm using and what each of those games teaches, like the benefits of those games. Because for me, I need a reason to do what I do in my homeschool. It's the same with reading. I know parents that don't read to their kids as much, and it feels not important. It's not like teaching multiplication tables. But actually, like, I have done the research. Reading to your children is so important. It benefits them in all these ways. And because of that, I prioritize it because I've understood that it's important. It's the same with game schooling. Game schooling just means having games be a part of your homeschool, or even if you kids go to school and you play games with them at home. But game schooling is learning through play. Obviously, I'm not gonna replace my curriculum. Like, I love Sunlight. I'm gonna keep doing Sunlight. I think it's a great addition to our homeschool. Like, that's the core of our homeschool is Sunlight. However, game schooling can help take that learning beyond just like the hours in the day that you're teaching and make way beyond that a learning but also fun experience. Card games, board games, strategy games, all of these are teaching children incredible skills, problem solving, critical thinking, reading, teamwork, long-term planning, economics, I mean, everything. My transition into a more recent game schooling approach happened because I was thinking back to my own childhood. We didn't really have a TV growing up when I was very young, and I have 6 siblings, so we played a lot of games, and I mean for hours. Like, we would do school in the morning, and then in the afternoons, like, we weren't watching movies or playing video games. We were game schooling, but I just didn't realize it. And I was mostly doing these with 6 siblings. So we were playing some of the really popular games like Monopoly, Skip-Bo, card games like Go Fish, just very simple games. Because we didn't have like a huge library of games. We just had like some core ones that we played over and over and over again. Games like cribbage, Monopoly, all of these teach math. You're adding up the dice, you're adding up your points. In the case of Monopoly, there's actually quite a bit of math where you're turning in your money, you're getting your deeds, etc. You're having to add up, oh, how many houses do I have? Pay those. These were constantly reiterating those math facts. As my kids have gotten older, the youngest one is 10 years old, so they can all play these games now. However, I just haven't, and I take the blame for this, like, I feel that I have not done as good of a job as I would have liked in teaching them how these games work and how fun they are. Yeah, of course, they all can play Monopoly. They can play the game of life. I'm not saying we didn't play them. We have played Monopoly to the point where we've had to buy like 5 new versions of Monopoly because it always gets destroyed. But I realized that I was making a mistake in not making this like a part of our daily routine. I don't really remember my mom playing these games with us. I remember playing them with my siblings. However, I am the second youngest of 7, and so my siblings taught me the games. And I'm guessing my mom taught them. But because of like the age difference, they were teaching me games, not my mother. I thought that my kids would just naturally want to play these games, and that's where I went wrong. It's like reading in that I needed to do it with them. I mentioned in a previous video, Fridays are more of like our fun day. Like, we mostly are just catching up on some reading, and because of that, I was like, oh, let's make Friday a fun game school day. I'm putting this out here because I think a lot of us are like the rest of us, and maybe you're like me, maybe you're just like, let's be strict and get it done. And I want to encourage you, like, game school, play, make it interesting. So we started playing cribbage. That was so much fun. But cribbage teaches a lot of different things. Like, you're constantly practicing math. Every single round you're doing math, and every round you're counting your cards, maybe you're counting their cards. So I just want to encourage you to start, even if you start really small, with really simple games. I think that a lot of parents, myself included, did play more games when the kids were little. They got older and I thought they'd just like play on their own. But much like with reading, I want to lead by example and start by playing the games with them, and then they can play the games on their own. But in the beginning, I think it's important to teach the kids how to have fun and how to play the games. Why does game schooling work? Games are multisensory, they're very low pressure, and there's just a whole bunch of repetition. And I don't know about your kids, but my kids need repetition when it comes to math. They need just that constant reminder, right? If you don't use it, you lose it. That's what I say to them. So as I try to remind them, about their math, it keeps them engaged and it keeps them learning without even realizing they're learning. The other night we played Ticket to Ride as a family, and we played for 2 hours. Like, it's a long game. It's not a short game, but through that we were talking about geography, we were talking about strategy, we were talking about how long to build your train, which routes to take, because you have to base it off of how many trains you have, and all of that. And I loved it, but also like they were learning. We were playing for hours. If I had said, hey guys, we're gonna sit down, we're gonna do some math, we're gonna do some strategy, we're gonna do some geography, they would have groaned. My Friday night is gonna be spent doing more school. Nay, not interested. But because I was like, hey guys, do you guys want to play a game together? All on board. 2 hours later, we had a great experience and they learned a whole bunch. I also love just like the family connection. I think that that's something that's lacking in so many families in today's society, and it breaks my heart. And it's not to say we don't struggle with that. Like, I have 2 teenagers, 2 preteens, and we are constantly working to keep that connection and keep a relationship with our teenagers and our younger kids, so playing games together can really help with that connection, that bond. The other day, my oldest son was sick and he was like, can you guys just stay by me? Like, don't leave. So we played cribbage on the floor by his sick bed. He was sleeping on the couch, and just like connected and stayed close together whilst he wasn't feeling well and things like that. Okay, let's talk about my favorite games. And again, these are all simple. They're games we just play regularly, and they are not, I'm saying they're simple because I sometimes get like handed bigger games that feel really overwhelming. Like, just to be totally honest, I've never learned how to play the game Risk. When I was young, someone tried to teach me, it scared me, and now here I am 30 years later, still don't know how to play. So I'm not like trying to get you to play these really out of the box wild games. Just simple ones to include in your everyday. We're gonna be talking about these games easiest to hardest. If you don't need all of the hard games, like if you've got a 5-year-old and you're like, yeah, we're not ready for that yet, that's okay. Although a lot of these have junior versions, so there's that. Mad Libs. I wish I had it on me, but we play Mad Libs, and we usually do themed Mad Libs. So like Friends Mad Libs or The Office Mad Libs. Do you remember what an adjective is? Can we remember what a noun is? Can we remember what a verb is, or an action verb? So some of those, just like when you're playing Mad Libs, like, it's good. It is so good because it's like reiterating that, it's reminding you. My kids have finally gotten down like adverbs really well. So when I'm reading to them and they hear an adverb, they're like, oh, heard that one. Cracks me up. But I think Mad Libs contributed to that understanding of what an adverb was. Also just really a fun, silly game, especially when you're playing with something like, something themed like The Office or whatever, where you guys can all laugh about it if you know kind of maybe like the episode that they are referencing. Phase 10. So colors for super, super young, number sequencing, patience, planning ahead, all of these things. Patience is a big one. You can ask my sibling. I feel like we get into it a little too much. We're like, my card just never came up. I've been waiting for the same card for 10 rounds. We actually play this every New Year's Eve, a big group in my family, and it's just like a really fun game that we all get to, go through together. And it can take like 3 or 4 hours to complete a whole series, like the whole 10 phases, especially if you got a lot of players. Yahtzee, fast mental math, and probability. Now, this is something I am notoriously bad at, probability, but not in cards and dice. But I love Yahtzee because I love games that include dice. I don't know why, but I just really do. So Yahtzee is one of my favorite games to play. And when you play a whole round of Yahtzee, 20 rounds, and there's 6 across, like, that's like 120 math problems just for yours, not even including what other people were getting. I love Yahtzee for the simplicity, but also you're doing fast mental math, you're doing multiplication tables, and you're doing probability. All of these are so good. And if I told my kids like, hey, we're gonna sit down, we're gonna do math for an hour, we're gonna do multiplication and addition for an hour, they would like groan and potentially cry. But I'm like, hey, let's sit down and play Yahtzee. They're like, oh, fun, we gotta roll the dice, la la la, add it up, no big deal. And right there, you can get a 2-hour math lesson in, and it didn't even feel like you had to do anything. You didn't feel like you were doing math for 2 hours. So an amazing game. I highly recommend, like, if it's a day where you're like, we need to just practice times tables, just skip the times tables and play some Yahtzee. You'll thank me later. My husband and I love Scrabble. We've been playing it since the beginning of our marriage. We would just like sit on the bed in the evenings and play Scrabble. I am notoriously bad at it. I don't quite know why. I just have a hard time with the words being jumbled. I'm not one of those people that's like looks up the letters and can put them into place. Which is weird. Like I always feel like I should be good at this game. I'm never good at the game. That's okay. I've just decided I don't care. But Scrabble's a great game for teaching spelling, reading, and vocabulary. Highlight on vocabulary. I feel like I have a decent vocabulary, but Scrabble, I learn a new word every time. Like you're like, is this a word? I should look it up, because can my letters make words? Anyway, such a good game for teaching those things. If you want to just like have a spelling lesson and be like, hey, let's keep it to 4 words each. Just do super simple, whatever you want to do, but you can mix it up with Scrabble. It's such a good game for teaching those things. Monopoly, my favorite game. Yeah, I would say. I was going to say arguably my favorite game, but I think it is my favorite game. It's the game I've played the most. It's a game I would play for hours every evening, every afternoon for most of my childhood. If we weren't like at church or doing other activities, but that was the game that we played the most growing up. Absolutely love Monopoly. Love the critical thinking that goes involved. Love that there's a little bit of luck, and love that there's math at every single roll of the dice. It's talking about money management, early economics, budgeting, risk versus reward. Also, it could help you with negotiation, although I'm not sure that that's always the best. Negotiation, I think, probably the hardest part in our family. Like, I can't believe you made that deal. So anyway, Monopoly is a really good one and very simple. Also takes a couple hours, but again, a couple hours where you're doing basic money management, math, statistics, probability, all of those things all wrapped up into a fun board game. Ticket to Ride is all about geography and then strategy. Ticket to Ride is definitely a little bit more of an advanced game, but it's simple once you get going. But you're reading maps, you're planning your routes, you're having to strategize if you should just take 1 card or 2 cards, all the things. But it's a really, really fun game, I feel, for a group of people, especially if you're like blocking, if you're playing with somebody competitive and they're like blocking your route, if you know, that can be really fun, really interesting as well. I really like it. Again, it's also one of those games that can take a while. And so you're just sitting in that moment for a while with your kids, which I think is just really beneficial, not just for the academics, but just for the enjoyment of spending that quality time together. Last game on the list is my favorite card game. So Monopoly is my favorite board game. Cribbage is my favorite card game. I don't remember a time in my life when I didn't know how to play. I grew up in a family that played cribbage all the time. Every time we visited my grandparents, we played at home, we played all the time. And my grandparents bought me a cribbage board for my 10th birthday, and all of those are just like, they're just very sentimental to me. Cribbage has a lot of mental math and a lot of multiplication and addition and probability, because you're trying to guess what cards you're going to draw. So it's fast, it's strategic, and it's a really fun game. Also, I feel like as a child, I felt a little bit empowered because I could still beat my elders when I was younger. So it didn't require so much strategy that I didn't have a chance, which was nice. So if your kids love numbers, they probably love this game. So highly recommend. Best card game ever played, in my opinion. So that is Gameschooling. In a nutshell, it is teaching through games. Also, pro tip, if you're looking to get into the game schooling world, but you don't have a lot of games, we're coming up to Christmas. Check the local thrift stores after Christmas, like the month of January. That place is gold. We've gotten a lot of games from the thrift stores in our area, and a lot of times they're unopened. I was very disappointed the other day. I found chess and Chinese checkers, but the marbles were all missing, and I was like, no, I'm not gonna do that. So be sure to check that it's all there, but if they're unopened, you're solid, like just that's perfect. Otherwise, look online, see when Amazon's having some sales. I bought a game recently that was like 50% off because okay, cool beans. So if you're ready to just bring more joy, more happiness into your homeschool, Gameschooling is for you. I would say just start with one. Like, don't try to do everything, because then you'll do nothing, because when you have too many decisions, you can't make a decision. But just pick one game and start playing that with your kids this week. And then be sure to tell me in the comments what's your favorite game that you play in your homeschool, because there are thousands, and we can share what games we like to play in our homeschool. I hope this video is helpful. I'll see you guys again next week.